So we're going to be using a tool for kind of for writing all of our documentation in this course, and it's a website builder called Docusaurus. So Docusaurus is a lightweight open source website builder. It uses React to build really comprehensive web pages for your documentation. But the really cool part about it is that you don't need to know React, you don't need to know JavaScript, you don't need to know CSS, HTML in order to build these documentation pages. All you have to do is write your documentation in Markdown, which is basically just a text formatting syntax that as you write, it'll just build the web pages for you and host them for free on GitHub Pages. So we're going to be relying heavily on Docusaurus in order to do these things. So some core benefits for you, again, Markdown support, you're writing content for your web pages, but you don't need to know all of HTML and CSS to build these pages. All you have to do is fill in the text document and you get a really nice web page. Versioning, you've got a really effortless versioning because we're just relying on Git and GitHub to keep versions of the documentation to maintain and see what has changed in the document, and we have a version history there. Another benefit, which you might not get to in this course, but it is useful, is let's say you work on version 1 of your application and then version 2 has different documentation than for version 1. You can just type in the command to create another version of the documentation, and it'll give you a drop-down menu so that users of both libraries can check what the differences are between the 1.0 version and the 2.0 version. So it's pretty nice for keeping different versions of documentation, but also having that history of previous documentation. And let's say maybe there was a patch change in one of the previous versions, you could actually edit those previous versions of documentation too. So if you're maintaining 1.0 and 2.0 in the same repository, you can do that. So as you can see, it's very developer friendly, but it's even more developer friendly because the documentation is within the same repository as your code. So you may have noticed when you cloned your new project that there's a documentation folder right in your project. That's where the Docusaurus website is and where you can edit all of those files to create the website. So it's already ready-made for you. Also, if you are a big web developer or a React fan, you can change and create new components for your documentation website to kind of elevate the reader's experience if you so choose, but you don't have to. But it's there. The setup is really easy because I've already configured the project for you so that all you have to do is provide your username and your GitHub access token, and then there's an action script that just happens in the background that pushes your actual website code to the GitHub Pages branch, which launches your static web page. And then that URL that you have for that static web page, it's never going to change unless you change the project name, so don't do that. But you should have that URL forever. And so if you want to ever go back and see that documentation later or share it with employers or just anybody, it's always there. Also, it's really important that you share that link to the documentation with your stakeholders. So make sure that you have that link and that you emailed it to them and you emailed it to me, and then we're able to just keep track and see these documentation changes. Like I said, Docusaurus lives within your code. So you can see here, this is like your GitHub project, and if we just zoom in, you can see the documentation folder just lives within your project code. So if we drill down into the project further, you'll see there's a docs folder, a source folder, a static folder. Now, It's kind of weird, I know, because it goes like documentation, then docs. I didn't really have a good way around this, but the docs folder is where your requirement specification, API, architecture, and testing documents will live. So you'll see all of those markdown files. So here we kind of are drilling into the docs folder, and now if we click one more in, we should be in the requirement specification. And you'll see the necessary files that you need to edit in order to satisfy the requirements document. And again, it's all just Markdown. So when I click on the document in GitHub, it's already rendered as a Markdown document. I can read the text, and there's a really awesome trick in VS Code that in GitHub, that when you click the dot key on your keyboard, it's just going to open this nice VS Code editor just right in line with the Markdown file. So you can edit it, commit it, and push it all right within GitHub, which is great for quick edits. I really like doing that. But this kind of leads me into how you're probably going to mostly edit your documentation, which is by using GitHub Codespaces. So GitHub Codespaces is a completely separate application and tool and can be used for a lot of different use cases other than Docusaurus, but it's pretty useful here because this will allow you to edit your web your documentation on the web without having to download a bunch of tools. So GitHub Codespaces is a cloud-based service that basically gives you an environment, a cloud environment all to yourself that is ready built to run your Docusaurus web project. So think about it as like you're kind of just leasing a computer somewhere else and just accessing it from your computer. It's really kind of just that simple. So how do you use it? You have to go to the your repository on GitHub, and then there's a button, a Create Codespaces button. It's near that big green code button. So you click the big green code button. You'll get choices as either to local or Codespace. You'll select Create Codespace, and then it'll create a Codespace on main. What that means is that it's just going to open VS Code in the cloud with your project already cloned, with all of the packages and necessary tooling to run your website within that environment. So you should be able to preview your website before actually pushing it to production. So like I said, you don't need to install anything locally. You could even work on this documentation on an iPad, which is kind of cool because usually you can't do that much for coding on an iPad. But with GitHub Codespaces, you can. So just food for thought. So again, to reiterate, it's 3 easy steps to using GitHub Codespaces and Docusaurus. So to start, let me give you this quick demo. So you go to the repository and you click the green code button. This will launch the VS Code interface. It does take a second because it has to download all of the node libraries that support Docusaurus to run. And it's doing that all for you so that you don't have to type in all of those commands. So just give it a second and it should run just fine. I sped this video up for demonstration purposes. Now that we have it loaded, go to the terminal and type in cd documentation, hit enter, and then yarn start. This will start the Docusaurus development server. It's going to ask you to open the page. You'll click open, and it'll take you to a new tab where your documentation website is found. Don't panic about the page not found screen. That's totally normal. Now you can actually edit your documentation file. So you can see the system overview. Now I'm going to go to documentation and then docs, requirements, and system overview, and I'm just going to edit the file and watch what happens. I didn't even have to refresh the page just updated. So this is not the live website, this is a development server, but you can see all of the changes that I make are live, it's fast. You don't have to work too hard to make the website actually run and show your documentation. So just treat it like you're writing any type of writing assignment or document. Okay. So how do we publish these changes? So to publish the changes, you're going to have to rely on Git. So you would type in git add and then the file that you change. So in this case, systemblockdiagram.md. You could add all of the files you changed at once with like git add dot or git add -a. But it's kind of better to just do it a file at a time so that you can give commit messages that are specific to that file that you changed, because that revision history shows on the web page. So when I go to the web page and I click revision history, I'll be able to see the commit message that was associated with the last document change. So here we'll just do like git commit -m added system block diagram. And then once I've committed that, I can just do a git push, and it's going to push the changes straight to GitHub. And if it's going straight to main, it's just going to publish the page immediately. It's best practice to use feature branching so that another one of your team members can review the changes that you made and approve them to be merged into the main branch. We're going to talk a lot about code review in another lecture, but it's just important to know that we're not only reviewing code, we're also going to be reviewing documentation. So take that seriously. Really read and proofread your peers' work before it actually appears on the main website, because you never know who's looking at it. So. And then the command for creating those feature branches, if you didn't know, is git checkout -b and then whatever the branch name you want it to be. Don't name it your name. Name it what the change is going to be. Just a general rule of thumb for development. Again, we're going to talk a lot about that more in other GitHub-related lectures. So I hope this helps. If you have questions, leave comments and ask me about Docusaurus. So good luck, and I look forward to reading your requirements document.